Hey everybody. So I finally have some time to live stream my Peruvian Lily. So a couple of things. I changed the size. I realized that I had not made the lily flowers prominent enough. There was just too much background. And I was really kind of struggling with it. So instead of it being an 18 by 24, it is now a 16 by 20. So the flowers are a little bit more in focus and there's not so much background. I actually did work on a lot of the background over the last couple of days, and I'm actually really glad I didn't stream it because I was really struggling with some of the top or left part. And as you probably, if you happen to be watching it, as I started live streaming while I was getting the links, you could probably see that I was really starting to darken areas off to the left. So I'm going to show you where I'm at. Move this down a little bit. So you can see it's really coming along here. So let me just get some things arranged here. And okay, so anyhow, you can kind of see off to the side here. That's where I took off these two sides here. I kept the top border the same because I love how that's looking. It's really starting to stand out now from my front flowers, and I took off a couple of inches on the bottom. So yeah, so it actually ended up being 16 by 20. And I think it's going to look a lot better. And plus, not so much work that I'm having to do. So, you know, that's just the funny thing about when you're painting. You know, you're always making mistakes. And no matter if I've had a painting that's won an award, if I start from beginning to end, I can guarantee you I'm going to make a mistake somewhere. And I felt like this one was a pretty big one. It kept me up last night. In fact, that's about all I can zoom out. Because again, it's pretty big, even at 16 by 20. But I'm just really excited about how this background is really starting to turn out. But I have a lot to do. Not a lot, but I need to darken some of these areas, and then I'm going to start softening some of these highlights. You can already see that I've got a little tiny bit, and over in here too, I've got a little tiny bit going on that I've already started to circle around. So I'm pretty excited about it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn my image, and then I'm also going to turn my painting so I can get over into this area and get it finished. Okay, so here we go. I'm gonna really zoom in. Boy, I have to tell you, this one was a little challenging, but it's a little bit better now that I don't have so much of that dark to do. So that was a big help. And I've noticed that it's looking a little bit darker. In fact, I'm going to try to adjust that. So give me a second here. There we go. That's a little bit better. That's more like where it's at. Okay, here I go. And again, I don't have my paints off to the side just because I have it on a giant plate. So what I've been doing is just trying to build up all these dark areas. In fact, it's still, well, no, I think it's okay. I'm gonna brighten it. There we go. Now that's about what I'm seeing. Okay, let's see here. Okay, bear with me for a minute. Hopefully everybody else goes through this too when they're painting. It's just, you feel kind of out of sorts at first when you start. It's kind of like a warm-up. I should have had all my paper towels ready to go, but okay, there we go. So what I did, I'm just gonna pull this forward. I mixed up a huge pile of purples. And I was dragging a lot of the blue over to this side. Okay. That way I have a little bit of variety going on here. So at this point now, it's getting a little bit easier because what is happening is the paint is really sunk in. I've done a lot of layers and it's now making it easier for me so that I don't have to wet the whole thing and I can just kind of go over it with, let me flip my image over here. Forgot to do that. Yeah, so anyhow, it just makes it easier. So now I can kind of blend out into those lighter areas. So I'm kind of following along with my image. And because I don't know, just forgot what I was gonna say. Oh my goodness. Yeah, you can't take that back when you're live. I don't know what I was gonna say. Okay, so anyhow, I'm just gonna keep going around. I'm gonna give it a sec to kind of sink in. I'm gonna throw some yellow in there here and there just to add some variety, mostly because obviously those are complementary colors. And I know it kind of looks weird at this point, but I'm just going to very lightly, because now it's going to sink in quick because there's a lot, let me rephrase that. It's not going to sink in as quick. What's going on is because the paper has so much color that's absorbed into the fibers that a lot of the color now is starting to stay along the top. And that is how I'm building those darker values. Okay? Let me get a little bit of yellow here. So it dries a little bit quicker as you start building values and getting darker and darker. And that's what happens in my backgrounds. So you see how I'm adding some yellow, and there's a lot of reflection going on from the lights, but it'll as soon as the sheen gets off, you'll be able to see it a little bit better. Now, all I'm worrying about right now is my darker colors. I am going to worry about lightening up some areas after I get all these colors in. Once all my darks are in. Now, I am in no way saying when it gets to this point it's easy. It's even gets a little bit difficult for me because I want some of these areas, I want a lot of value because that is what's really going to make this show. It's going to really make it, not only is it going to make it look darker in the background, but it's really going to make those front petals just really come forward. So see how I've got some hard lines there, which again, I'm not worried about. In fact, I might reshape some of these to kind of look like it's going to be going behind this little one right there. And I probably need to make that one, I think what I'm going to do is paint. There we go. I'm just going to soften that because that was pretty bright, and I would rather have this connected with this little area of those little bright spots. I'm just going to keep going around, and honestly, this is probably about my 4th or 5th time on this little area. And then once I'm done with this, I'm going to go back and I'm going to start pulling out some of those highlights. So now I'm just kind of picking up from the different areas where I've made my colors. So I'm kind of picking up more of a blue. Now I'm picking up some yellow. And feel free to ask me questions. It's kind of nice to chat along when I'm painting, because usually I'm listening to music, and I know you've probably heard me say this a million times, yeah, can't do that when you're live streaming on YouTube. They don't like that. Unless you have permission to use the music. Okay, I'm going to flip this around. I don't have enough green here, so I'm mixing up a little bit more green. This area is going to be a little bit tougher because it's a little bit lighter. And I know it looks really weird when you do this at first, but it is going to settle right down as soon as I am able to start softening everything. I need to get up in that area. I'm going to go ahead and leave these spots alone right now. Sometimes I get really nervous at doing this. I'm like, oh my gosh, is this gonna turn out okay? All right, back to my purples. This part is always a little scary to me because then I have to quickly try to soften that edge. I mixed up. I knew I was going to be using a lot of burnt sienna color, so I took some yellow on another plate, and I took some red and a little bit of blue, and I made a huge amount of a burnt sienna type color. So I'm going to use a little bit of that. And I have so many different mixes going on. You'd think I would be worried about muddying it. But again, we're working with these transparent staining colors. So there, now you can kind of see now that the sheen has kind of died down a little bit. You can see that area. Some more. Oh! Let me see, there we go. I adjusted the the zoom a little bit so you don't see my hand going in and out. Now it's spreading a little bit better because it's sunken in a bit. Adding some green. See how as I add more color, it just starts to have a little bit more depth to it. And one of the reasons why I'm using a small brush is I don't want to drop too much color on there. I'm thinking I need some more blue down in this area. Yeah, it looks real funky and weird right now, but it'll all come together here shortly. See, I have a little bit of a hard edge there, so I'm going to have to really work on getting that out. Now I'm going to have to stop and let it dry, so if anybody wants to ask me any questions, you're more than welcome. I'm just going to go ahead and dry this. Yeah, I can see a lot of areas where my color just kind of, I left it as I was concentrating down here. Whoops. But I'm going to fix that. Okay. While it's still a little bit moist right there, but I think it's dry enough for me to kind of define this area a little bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pick an area. Wait, no, I'm not. There we go. Just trying to separate some of these some of these little circles. Try to darken so that there's just not this whole solid area, and that may be a little bit harder for you to see. So again, I'm kind of painting around a circle. Put another one right here. And then again, once I soften everything up, it'll smooth out. Right now it just looks a little weird. Because at some point you have to separate those little, I don't know what you call them, they're just like little areas of light. And it's not easy. It's probably why I haven't done a very complicated background yet for you. Boy, those are really going to need some smoothing out. Oh, here's some questions. A Better Place to Be says, I think it looks stunning right now. Actually, I'm intrigued. Hi, Shannon. I don't think I can see part of the reference area you're painting. It looks like it's cut off. Oh, it is. It is. Thank you. Thank you, Shannon. Okay, give me a sec here. There we go. Okay, hope that's better. Well, thank you anyhow for saying that. Now that's kind of what I want. And then I'm going to go in. Now once I let this soak in a little bit, then I can go back behind that area right there and push it back behind that center one. And right now they kind of look like half moon shapes, but they won't when I get done. Now I'm feeling a little bit better over here. I'm seeing a little bit more definition. Ah, perfect. Okay. Hi, Loopy. Okay. You'll be able to see that a little bit better too once it dries some. Oh, I feel so much better. This, whew, I wanted to make sure you saw me painting some more of the background, but boy, this one was really throwing me for a loop. And I really, okay, so here's what's hard. Now that I'm feeling a little bit more comfortable, I'm getting in my stride here. So what I was trying to accomplish in this little background area was to have complementary colors, the purples and the yellows. And that's hard to do because they're complementary colors, which means if you don't do it right, you're going to get you're going to dull out your colors too much. And you've probably heard me say this before, dull color, there's nothing wrong with dull color, that's what you want. Dull color is just another way to say unsaturated. So saturated versus unsaturated. So I like those unsaturated colors, but what I didn't want to do is completely have no color in here. I wanted to make sure that I was keeping those purples and the yellows, because when I get to those petals in the center, there is a lot of purples and a lot of bright yellows, and then there's also another set of complementary colors, which is the reds and the greens, because there's a little bit of green in those leaves, or I'm sorry, in the petals. So that I'm trying to mirror that in the background here. Every time I do a background too, I think I'm never doing this again. These are just way too hard. And then I start painting, and then I start relaxing, and then I realize, boy, it just looks so amazing when you can actually accomplish this. All right. I feel okay. I can see over here. I don't like the shape of that dark spot. I'm always looking at shapes too on my backgrounds. I just don't want anything looking weird. So I'm always just trying to, and also balance out the composition. But I still think the most important thing is your values. There we go. That's dry enough so I can come back and just define those edges a little bit more. I also try to vary my highlights too. You don't want all the same, size circles. There, see how they're kind of getting a little bit more defined? Some of them are kind of hidden behind a shadow. It looked really horrible at first. I'll try one right here. I'm gonna add some blue. Kind of break up this space right here. But again, I still need to scrub out certain areas. Ooh, now I gotta be fast. Okay, that's a little bit better. All right, so now what I'm gonna do, I think I'm gonna leave that alone. I'm gonna dry it. So while it's drying, I'll read some of these questions. So Shannon, I mostly see gray in the area you're working on. So this is artistic license and you decided on purple and yellow, or you actually see those colors in the reference? You know, I do see those colors. They are kind of gray. They're almost like a very cool gray. And in the darkest areas on the image, they're kind of almost like a brownish, purplish, very dark color. So yeah, I actually do see that a little bit. Best laid plans. I'm always a lot more ambitious than I think it's, you know, so I'll look at it and go, oh, I'm gonna get every little detail in there. And then by the time I get there and, you know, I flood an area that I don't want, and so, yeah. I kind of have to adjust a little bit. Now, what I should do is let this dry, and then I can go over to the opposite side and start adding in a little bit more of those circles. See how it kind of bled in right there a little bit. But that's okay, because I'm going to take my scrubber brush and fix that. And actually, I'm gonna zoom out a little bit. Let me move my plate out of the way. Let's zoom out. So that's just about where I want those values to be. So I'm gonna actually turn it. Let's zoom back in a little bit closer. Okay. So now I can see really what I'm going to be fixing. That turned out kind of neat right there, but I'm probably going to add a little bit more of a highlight, and there's a couple more areas right around there that I want to kind of stand out a little bit more. And then probably what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave it for a while and then I'll decide how or what I think about it. And a lot too is going to depend on what happens with these center petals. And you can see up here, I really ended up coming in and I darkened some of these areas in here. I darkened a little bit more to up the value on this little petal in the back. And I also added a little bit more color into that bud blossom. And then I came over here into this area and darkened right along that edge right there and there, so that that bright spot would really come forward. And so this is where I'm at now. And honestly, I'm having a little bit of an easier time over here because it's lighter. Dark areas they're kind of hard, but I think this is it's gonna look pretty good once I'm done. Okay, so now I'm gonna flip it around. Get up a little bit closer and see what I'm doing. Okay. What I really need to do, oh, let me flip my image around here. So what I really need to do on this, if it will move over more. There we go. Okay. I think I have all of my lights where I want them. So all I need to do is I want to add a little bit more green. Kind of brighten some of these colors a little bit. And then I can leave this alone, and then I can start softening those highlights a little bit. I'm going to push these guys into the background a little bit, and then I'll highlight them once I'm done. See, there's a really dark area right there, and that's important too. Again, that's all about value. To me, if an area is just completely solid with middle values or light values or even dark values, I think that it just doesn't draw your eye. I think it's really important to focus on that. And I'm toning down some of these areas too. And then sometimes I find an exact area where you can just feel that that's going to be just a great area for a little highlight. And now I think I need to add a little bit darker color right up in here and pull it down a little bit. into this color right down there. And to be honest, the same thing kind of happened over here. I lost some of my lines, and it's okay. It's supposed to look out of focus. I mean, we really don't even know exactly, you know, what those little highlights are from. And same thing there, I'll have to really soften that edge. But I'm gonna wait until that's dry because I don't wanna drag too much of that green down into that red area. I'm gonna let my scrubber brush do the work. Isn't it amazing how much that color lightens? Just going to keep going around, softening. And then right up here, just adding a little bit more of that yellow and that purple. Oh, that worked out perfect. I decided to just push those back into the background a little bit so it kind of matches where this area goes onto that opposite side that I was working on earlier. You can tell I had a little bit easier time over in this area because I'm not going to have so much to try to soften. That other area was really struggling with it. I don't know why either. But, you know, it was like I was saying the last time I streamed this, I think a lot of it had to do is I hadn't done a pretty intense background for a while. It just took me a little bit to get back in it. Keep seeing areas I want to just not darken. I'm not really darkening down here. I'm just trying to up the saturation of those colors a little bit. Oh, I think I need to. So here's another area I need to really work on. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to actually wet the whole thing, kind of move it into that little blossom. Now I'm going to get an even smaller brush. I'm kind of leaning to the side because I want to see how much that color has soaked in. That was kind of dark. Ah! I think one of the other things that I was kind of struggling with a little bit is because we had, for us, being here in the Southwest, we actually had a very wet summer. It was kind of crazy. And so I kind of started getting used to painting in a little bit more humid temperatures. Well, I didn't mean to do that, but I like that. So now all of a sudden it is very dry. It's gotten cold, and because we're in a mountainous area, it's very, very dry. So now I'm having to get used to the paper quickly drying. I'm going to get a little bit more color in that area. On backgrounds, sometimes if I feel like I just went overboard with a color, I'll grab my yellow and I'll just dump yellow on top of it. Okay, I think I can go ahead and get that dried. And then I'm going to leave that alone. I'm going to turn everything around again. I'm going to go back to the other side. There we go. Still feels a little cool. Okay. I think I can go ahead. I'm going to get my old water out of the way. I have a thing of some clean water. And I'm going to grab my scrubber brushes. While I'm doing this, I'm sitting here debating, believe it or not, I am debating putting water over this whole thing, this whole area right here, and letting it blend in a little bit more. I'm thinking. I am. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to grab a big brush that holds a lot of water. See how even with, look at all that color I have on the surface, and it still isn't muddying up and moving around too much. Some of it on the top is moving a little bit, and I'm actually kind of glad about that. Just feel like things weren't blended out very well. Okay, now I'm going to take my smaller one so I can get right in, right up to those edges. And this whole time I'm watching, making sure it's staying really wet. You're probably thinking, does she even have a plan? You know, sometimes with the backgrounds, I see things, and as I was looking, I was like, I just feel like it needs to soften up. I want some of those colors to blend together a little bit. So no, this was not my plan, but now it's really soaking in. I think this is going to help. I think I was just getting a little bit too caught up. So now I have that giant brush and it's really soaked in. I just felt like there was too much going on. Now I'm going to grab the yellow. And I'll still be able to come back in there and pick out those highlights. I just didn't feel like the colors were just not, I don't know. I just wasn't feeling those colors. Okay, now I'm going to clean up my edge here. And I'm going to grab my number 4. And I'm going to grab some of that magenta and yellow. I'm putting on a lot of color. I just really want some of these areas to just soften and blend out. It's looking a lot darker on the screen, so I am going to zoom out. It's not as dark as you think it is. It's just sometimes it's really hard to get, you know, to show exactly what's going on. Let me move this up there. And I think oh, I'm going to be much happier with that. So I'm going to dry this quickly. Going to flip it around again. Oh, this is going to be so much better. I just adjusted the colors again on my OBS Studio so you can see it a little bit better. Oh, that's much better. Now you can really see it now. See how it kind of just softened all the edges a little bit? It's much better. Oh, I am so much happier with that. Now it's really soaked, so it's going to take a little while for that to dry. And so I think what I'm going to do, let's flip it around. So was anybody thinking that I was really screwing that up? Okay, let's zoom out. It's kind of bubbly right there, so it's going to need to sit a little bit. And now that I'm looking at it that way, let me adjust the filters a little bit. Because it's still not really showing what I'm seeing. There we go. Wait, right about there is where it's at. Much better. I feel like it's much softer, and so I think what I'm going to do is pull some bigger circles out of there, but I'm going to give it plenty of time to dry. But now it's all nice and soft, and then I can pull that a little bit of that yellow out. So now when I get the white out of there, it'll like blend into the yellow. So I think that's gonna look really good. Okay. Well, let's flip that around. While that's drying, this feels pretty dry. Just going to give it a little bit more. And now on this one, I can really start picking out those highlights. And in the meantime, I'm going to go get some clean water. Okay, I got some nice clean water. Just gonna hit this with a little bit more of the hair dryer. So let's see, Shannon, you're saying, oh, now I see why you picked those colors. Zoomed out, it makes much more sense. Well, yeah, if you are looking at that flower, those petals, so you're seeing red. There's like a lot of red right up in the, I don't know what you'd call those little spots that look like tiger markings on those inner petals. And they're red, yet at the same time, you've got green in those petals, like running right through the center of them. So you've got those complementary colors, and then you've got the purples and the yellows, those little yellow veins. So you've actually got a split complementary painting going on. All right, there we go. So I'm trying to kind of mirror that in the background a little bit. Okay. I'm taking my number 6 and lots of water. I'm just going to go back and forth between scrubber brushes. And again, lots of water. That way you keep those edges nice and soft. And let me zoom in just a little bit. This is my favorite part. So again, lots of water over in this corner. And honestly, I'm barely pulling any of that paper up. That's what I'm trying to achieve, where I can see where I kind of want a little bit of the edge, but I don't want it too sharp. That's what I kind of need to do right along that edge. I'm not gonna lighten that any, because I want it to sit behind. You notice I'm kind of leaving the water there for now because it's all kind of blending together. Need a bigger brush. I want to make this spot a little bit bigger. They're a little bit too similar, so I'm going to break this up a little bit. Back to my bigger brush. Let that water soak in. That having a harder time on that edge, so I'm going to let that water soak in just a little bit. There, that's better. I'm going to flip this around. Dry this just a hair. See what it looks like. Gotta move my water out of the way. Well, it's getting there. Let's turn my image. Oh, I can see it a little bit better. I'm pretty happy with this. I think this is looking pretty good. I'm going to leave this zoomed out. I need to get some of that back area dried. Well, thank you, Wendy. Thank you, Shannon. I'm looking over here now, and I think I need a huge spot. I think all those are too similar. Although, when I'm looking at the image, they're not, but I think maybe the problem might be that I haven't softened that area. So I think what I'm going to do is leave it like this, zoom in. Oh. And let's see. Get my water back back over near me. Well, all I could really say is backgrounds take a lot of practice. You just have to go slow. Oh, the other thing I meant to mention is I am having trouble with this sheet of paper. Now, I remember when everybody was talking on one of the live streams I was doing, we were talking about Arches paper. And I've noticed that this sheet is just not acting like it normally does. I don't know what's going on or why, but I was just really kind of struggling with it a little bit. It just doesn't have the same feel. And I remember somebody else was saying that they had gotten a refund on some of their paper because it was really splotchy. And I've noticed this just doesn't seem, the color just hasn't seemed to just blend out. I mean, I'm making it work, but it's just, I just haven't had an easy of time with this paper. I was really struggling with it a little bit. You know, and I bought it during COVID. I was really worried that I wasn't going to be able to get paper, so I bought like 20 sheets. And and I had to wait for a while to get the paper too. So maybe that had something to do with it. Now what I'm going to do is take a little bit of my yellow Get some green in there. See how I'm putting it right over where I just scrubbed? And that'll tone down a little bit too. And now I'm going to bring it back around. I'm going to use my big brush again. Just wetting everything again. This will let these colors just flow right over the top. And then I'm going to pick that, believe it or not, I'm going to pick that white out again. I just felt like it was just a little bit too... what is the word I'm looking for? Oh, thanks, Wendy. I think it is too. Just needed those edges just a little bit softer. And let's see. It would be a lot easier if it wasn't on such a big sheet of paper. And that's why I teach the tutorials a little bit smaller, because you know you only have so much screen space. And yes, Wendy, I am going to, I'm going to call, I order a ton of stuff from Dick Blick. They're a reputable company. I have never once had any problem with them, so I'm going to let them know what was going on. And you know, it could have something to do with, well, it was COVID. You know, a lot of things were going on. Companies weren't able to, you know, they were shutting down. Who knows if this paper sat in the warehouse for a long time. You know, nobody really knows what happened. So it's just going to be something I'm going to... Now, I do have another 20-pound or 20-sheet pack, and I'm going to open that up here shortly. Not today, but I'm going to open it up, and if I'm having problems with that one too, I'm going to send it back. Yes, Dick Blick does have great customer service. I have never once had to argue with them over anything. Now that looks really good right there. See how that edge is nice and soft? So now it's blended a little bit into that background. And another thing that's going to help, so I'm gonna flip this around again carefully. Zoom it out again. Oh, see, already that is looking a little bit better. I think I just think I had too many of similar circles. So once I kind of made that a little bit bigger, you know, and I have some of these smaller ones, I just feel like that evened it out. Now, I can get pretty picky when I'm doing these backgrounds. Like, I'm looking right here and I can easily see, do I want to do more? And believe it or not, even though I have scrubbed out all these areas, did you see how, look at how much I scrubbed right there. I scrubbed a lot and I was able to go right over it with the color and it didn't do anything weird. Here, I'll even zoom in onto that little tiny area. And this is what I'm talking about with those scrubber brushes. Look at that. There's nothing weird going on in that area. It looks really good. It doesn't look like when I put the color back over there, it's just lightly softened the areas, but it's nice and smooth. And if I do feel like an area is a little weird, like probably what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my my plastic spoon and then I'll go over and I'll rub it all down. If later on I think I'm going to need, let me zoom out again and I'll explain this because this is important. So I could say that this is done, and boy, look at it, look at that right there. You can see how I put so much water on there that it's going to take a little while to dry, but nobody wants to sit here and watch paint dry. So I think it's important that I explain to you a little bit of my thought process on what is going on in these areas. One thing I'm really happy about is as I'm looking at all these edges of these petals. Now see, obviously I don't even have anything going on in here yet, but I can already tell that my background has got a beautiful, beautiful out of focus look. I think that's perfect. That petal right there was a little difficult because it's kind of in between the very, very out of focus background, and it's almost like a middle ground, and then we've got the foreground. And the same with these petals right here, and this one over in this area. So far, I'm okay with it. I don't think I'm going to do anything more with this right now. I'm going to have to leave it alone. I want that to get really, really dry. So basically what I am trying to say is, as I move into these petals and then down here into these dark areas, like if you look at that image, you can see that there's a lot of darks right in here, and this is going to be really super bright. That's going to be another great focal area for this. So what we have going on is I've got some dark areas here, some beautiful light areas here, and then we come down to these petals, and here are some very light areas, which is going to go great with this light area there. So see how I'm looking at this painting as a whole, and I'm constantly judging where these values are going, because that is the most important thing, that getting that value correctly. So once I come down in here and I start getting all these beautiful darks and these shadows, let me scoot that up, these shadows in these leaves, and I build up that leaf under there, and it's going to kind of sit behind, and then we've got all these shadows going on. You are really going to see that background change a little bit. Like, I may need to actually darken some of those areas even more to balance out. It's always a matter of balance. So now what's going to happen is I'm going to come in here And you can see that if you're looking at that image, this whole area right here of these petals is in shadow. And then wait until I get those lovely shadow areas right in there. And believe it or not, I'm going to get a lot more done when I stream again, because I don't know why. Blending out on a foreground area is a lot easier than trying to blend out and get these backgrounds out of focus. Trying to keep nice soft blends so things don't look overworked, yet trying to get good focal points like on a camera flare on the lens. So I'm probably not going to want to do really anything more on here. Now I need to come over and I need to work on these background leaves, and that way it'll give me an idea on how that's going to look, and then moving on into these forward petals. And I'm really excited about these forward petals because, again, this is gorgeous right here. This petal is almost completely in shadow, yet right about here there's one little bit of light peeping in from under this petal that's kind of like coming forward and leaning over this bigger petal. And then I have this gorgeous one right here. And what's really neat about that is there's this gorgeous cool area right here. And that's going to play well against all these warmer areas. So I've got some cooler areas right along those edges and over in here, and this one especially. So I'm going to want to really focus and pay attention, and I don't want to dull down or lose that beautiful, beautiful blue that I can see in there. And I'm going to try to make sure I mirror that over in here too. So that is what I am really paying attention to. So let me see if I can zoom out. No, that's about all I can zoom out on this giant painting. So that's going to be what I am going to be working on. I'm crossing my fingers. I don't see why I won't be able to film working down on these lower leaves. And these little background areas, oh my gosh, they are going to be so much easier because I have dividing lines. So I'll just be able to focus right in that little area, and then this area is going to be a little bit of a challenge. But knowing what I went through up there, I think I can focus a little bit better and know what I have to do on this paper, and then get those really dark areas in. So I'm kind of excited about that. So I think that that's what I'm going to work on tomorrow on the stream. And then I'll get to those petals, and I'm so excited about them because they're so they're just beautiful. So before I go, I think, how long have I been streaming? About an hour and a half. So I don't want to leave yet. Does anybody have any questions about my plans for this? Oh, and one more thing I want to mention is I have another of these Peruvian lilies, but it's only one, and I'm going to go ahead and do it as a 10 by 10 tutorial, and I think it's going to look really neat. And this time I'm going to make sure I test the paper for my background. There won't be a whole lot of background, and it's not going to be as complicated, but I think it's going to look really good. And Wendy's saying it looks fantastic. Thank you, Wendy. Oh my gosh. The backgrounds are just, I can see why people, strictly want to do just an image, like a botanical, and then all of a sudden you're like, no, I'm not doing anything on the background. So, but I'm definitely going to do this lily as one. I think this is the prettiest lily I've ever seen. I had no idea that these were called Peruvian lilies. I just love all those tiny little tiger stripes. They're stunning. And the other cool thing about this one is that there's some water drops on the tip of the stamens. So I'm kind of excited about that too. Yeah, I just can't wait. So I shouldn't say I can't wait till I'm done with this background, but I can't wait till I'm done with the background and I'm able to move on to those flowers. So if anybody wants to watch me tomorrow, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to start down here, and I'm just going to forget about that top part for a while. So Shannon's saying, thank you for streaming, and you're very welcome. And again, so I don't know what time tomorrow. I'm going to try to get all my morning things done and then probably stream maybe around noon. I'm thinking might be a good time. So yeah, and then you'll get to see me make all my make all my mistakes on those lower areas. So okay, I'm gonna go back to my front webcam. So yeah, as you could probably tell, I don't necessarily know if this is a good thing or it's a bad thing, but especially when you're seeing my thought process and what I'm thinking about as I'm going along, especially on that top part, how I stopped scrubbing in that upper left corner, and I went, nope, I'm going to go ahead and wet it and blend some of it out. Sometimes it takes me just a little bit, and you probably go through this too. And if you do, it's a good thing, because you have to wonder, am I thinking this through correctly? It's watercolor. You have to always be thinking a few steps ahead. Do I make this change, or am I overthinking it? And that's sometimes why I will wake up in the middle of the night thinking, nope, I gotta fix this. So you're seeing a little bit of my craziness. Like I was just talking about that upper right area too. I'm already looking at that. I'm gonna leave it alone, but I know I already want to do some fussing with it. And there's nothing wrong to keep fussing, as long as you don't overwork things. If you want to spend 20 hours on one area, you shouldn't ever let that worry you. But I definitely know that I'm going to be doing a little bit more back there. So let's see. Wendy is saying, I would love to watch it. Thank you for sharing your talents. Wendy, you have a great eye. Yeah, that's something, and you'll develop that too. Anybody that you paint enough, and you really start seeing things, and you've probably all heard me say this a lot before, but as you're walking around your house or you're outside, really pay attention to what you're seeing in shadows and the colors of flowers. I'm sure it's always made me look like a weirdo. I'll just stop somewhere and bend down, crouch down, and look at a tiny little flower and see what's going on with those veins. And but those are just skills that you develop after you've painted for a long time. And I've said it a million times, I think what always has caught my eye is light. And light has to do with shadows. So those values are always what is just always been the most important thing to me. And I think that's what makes my painting stand out. So concentrate on that and work on that. And you're going to see me do that on those bottom leaves. I'm feeling a little bit more positive about doing those areas because they're a little bit more compartmentalized. So that's how my brain kind of works. I tend to get overwhelmed on a big area. So I will be working on that tomorrow. So I will again post the link on Facebook, and if you're subscribed to me, it's probably gonna pop up on your email anyhow that I'm live streaming. So I'm gonna say, oh, Wendy, I do the same thing, and I drive everyone crazy. Yeah, thank you for saying that. I feel better, because even though I feel comfortable, and if anybody is not really wanting to listen, that's fine. Even though I'm feeling a lot more comfortable painting, boy, it is still a little bit part of you, that little part that nobody else knows, that part of you where your mind's always thinking all day long, that is showing. And wanting to go over an area 20 times for me, that's just how I paint. And I still have that little bit of fear that people are gonna watch me and go, my God, she's crazy. But yep, that's how I paint. So you're gonna really see me get into these lower leaves tomorrow. So Wendy and everybody and Shannon and whoever else is watching, thank you for watching me. And again, around noon tomorrow, and I'll make sure I get that link posted. So thank you everybody for watching me.